In 1920, women were finally granted the right to vote. However, women are still fighting for complete equality and for the same rights men receive on a daily basis. Today, women are fighting for equal pay, equal opportunities, and equal representation.
On a daily basis, women are taken advantage of and face threats and character assassinations when they speak up. Women are being denied the right to make decisions about their own bodies.
This is why women need allies. Everyone needs to fight for equality because women's rights are human rights. One of those rights is the right to a comfortable workplace where they can grow and succeed. Men dominate so many boardrooms in America, and as a result, so many women are stifled of opportunity. I sat down with Tasha Stewart, a senior manager at WCPO, to discuss her experience as a woman in the media field.
I definitely think it's harder. It's gotten a lot better in like the past 2 decades, but it's still pretty challenging. You often have to work twice as hard to get half as much, and you often need sort of allies to speak for you, and a lot of times those allies are likely male who are already in positions of power and can kind of help give you a hand up. It's really great when there are women in positions of power who can give that hand up, but because there are fewer of us at this level, it just makes it all that more challenging.
And why do you think that is?
News media, a long time ago, was traditionally dominated by men, particularly white men. And although we've made strides, there's still a lot of men in positions of power. I wish it was different. I see signs of hope, but there's still a really long way to go. I think when men open their eyes to not just the capabilities that women have, but also stop using some of those loaded gender terms. Like a lot of times women are ascribed emotional terms and men are never described that way, and just being more cognizant of that implicit bias within their heads and how when they say those words out loud, people glom onto them and then they attach that word to a woman's personality, which may or may not be true, and it's really hard to shake that brain.
When you think about the Me Too movement, what are your thoughts? How is that impacting the media industry?
Look at all the stories that have come out in the last year and a half and think about how many of the stories that focused on men who were in huge positions of power, that they've shaped how we've consumed media over the past, 2 decades. And think of how many women's opportunities have been stifled because they didn't agree to sexual favors from someone who was in a position to put them on. My previous editors came up to me and he had a little bit too much drink, and he sat down next to me and he kept rubbing my leg. I just kept trying to laugh it off like women do, because I mean he's an executive editor at a pretty large newspaper. He texted me at 11 p.m. the number to his room and was like, let's make it happen. At the time, my then boyfriend, when I told him, he just thought I was overreacting. When somebody's supposed to know you and they still take the other side, it's just it's a whole different kind of disappointment. He has acknowledged since that he let me down on that one. You just hope that the more these stories are uncovered, the more people will call out problematic behavior, particularly men who may not have realized that people that are around them and that they trust and are engaging with every day are some of the ones perpetrating a lot of this problematic behavior, because it's not just on the women to call this out, it's on the men too.
Gender wage gap is a known and complex system in businesses and companies in our country, most importantly in occupational groups such as STEM, social sciences, and media and entertainment. Many employers find salary through the levels of attributes such as education and experience, and the rate of return, or the rate each service should amount to for each attribute. A survey based on the Cincinnati MSA metropolitan area, if women with the same level of attributes got paid with the same rates of return as men, women would have the same amount or more compared to a man. It is true, women make less money compared to men. Even more so, women of color are affected more than their female counterparts. According to the Women's Fund of the Greater Cincinnati area, women make 20% less compared to a man, while African American women make 30%, Native Americans 41%, and Latino Americans 45% less compared to a white non-Latino man. Many women are advocating and fighting back on the matter. Women like Jennifer Lawrence, who wrote a short, opinionated essay after finding out that her male co-stars on the 2013 movie American Hustle received a greater amount of money compared to her and Amy Adams, both women on the project. Noting also Alex Morgan, Carly Lloyd, and Megan Rapinoe, team captains of the winning FIFA Women's World Cup, sued and filed charges against the United States Soccer Federation for wage discrimination. The women who are part of the most successful women's soccer team took notice of themselves receiving $1,350 compared to the men who received $17,625 on winning a game. Also, the men, when winning a World Cup game, received $400 million compared to the women who received $30 million as a prize. The level of attributes are the same. The only difference that can explain the wage gap is their genders. The inequality in our country concerning the wage gap is heavily unbalanced and needs to be changed.
Speaking of inequality, unlike men, women's reproductive rights are still being targeted by anti-abortion politicians. We're in a time where a bunch of heartbeat bills are passing, not just in Ohio, but in many different states. So what is your personal opinion on these heartbeat bills that are passing?
Heartbeat bill is such a misleading term because it's just a collection of cells with electronic activity. There isn't a heart yet at 6 weeks. The heartbeat bill is one of those very politicized terms that are just meant to pull at people's, heartstrings.
The movement to defund Planned Parenthood serves to cause harm and no good.
Federal funding already cannot go to abortions, period. That's part of the Hyde Amendment. It's something that cannot happen.
Title X is the only federal grant program dedicated solely to providing individuals with comprehensive family planning and related preventative health services. According to Lobenstein, Planned Parenthood health centers make up only 14% of Title X centers, serving 41% of Title X patients. 78% of Title X patients have incomes that are below 150% of the federal poverty level.
You're taking reproductive health care, you're taking away the option for birth control, you're taking away the option for STI screenings and cancer screenings from people who can't afford it.
Abortions have been there since the beginning of time.
Oh, absolutely. Since people have been getting pregnant, there have been abortions.
But they've been unsafe. So, Donald Trump or whoever these lawmakers are, they can take away safe abortions, but people will never stop conducting unsafe abortions.
20% of all pregnancy deaths prior to Roe were from illegal abortions and unsafe abortions.
To suggest or to equate, the singularity of the heart as being a sign of some sort of viability is really just medically inaccurate.
Many doctors have agreed that 6 weeks is not enough time for a woman to know if she is pregnant or not.
6 weeks pregnant is just 2 weeks late on a period. Even if people discover they are pregnant before the fetal heartbeat, that then forces them into a very quick decision.
An 11-year-old girl obviously doesn't know she's pregnant 5 weeks into her pregnancy after being raped.
I've been in with people who have been assaulted and are having an abortion because of assault. Having an abortion is one of the most unselfish things I've ever seen people do. Because again, some of these people coming in, these are wanted pregnancies. There's some medical issue that's keeping them from having children.
The fundamental basis of pro-choice is that it's your decision, it's your body, and I'm going to stay out of it.
I mean, abortion is a human right. It's legal without any boundaries in so many countries. Here it is so hyper-legislated and it's so controlled. We can't give up because the other side isn't going to give up. So we can't give up.
The movement for women's suffrage started with two women, Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and ended with an entire nation of women fighting for their undeniable right to vote.
Today, women like Michelle Obama and Malala Yousafzai are fighting for girls' right to education and equal opportunities everywhere.
These women have climbed mountains to achieve incredible amounts of change by supporting their own gender. But if everyone came together to support women, we could move these mountains out of our way.
Well, the main demand, of course, is equal rights. Equal rights to have a job, to have respect, to not be viewed as a piece of meat. Equal rights to set forth our own humanity. Equal rights to get into graduate programs, to get into schools, to training programs. We're the bottom third of the employment in terms of pay. We represent nonetheless 34% of the workforce, yet we're the first to be laid off and the last to be hired. There aren't frivolous demands at all. We just want what men have had all these years.